The king of the undead wants to rule over every biome and every dimension, but a drowned necromancer has been awoken from a deep sleep and is now challenging his rule with a powerful undead army of his own. So the skeleton king seeks aid from me and my brothers. Will I be able to band together a crew and conquer the ocean? What creatures will I run into? Make sure to like, subscribe, and watch to the end to find out. Now here's 100 days as a wither skeleton in hardcore Minecraft. On day 1, some of my brothers frantically ran past me into our nether fortress. When I curiously looked outside to see what they were hiding from, everyone else ran past me too. That's when I saw a giant illager standing at the end of one of our bridges. I rushed inside, grabbing what armor and weapons I could before rushing out the door to face the enormous monster at our doorstep. I started charging at the giant illager, but stopped when a brave soul jumped out in front of me. With the giant fish in hand, the peculiar stranger spun around, turning out to be this video sponsor, Rec Room, a free-to-play social game you can download with ease using the link in the description or the QR code on the screen. With literally millions of rooms to explore, Rec Room is like a giant virtual theme park that has something for everyone. You can use Rec Room's in-game voice chat to hang out with friends or meet new people, and it's fully cross-platform. So whether you're playing on iOS, Android, PlayStation 4 and 5, Xbox, Steam, or on VR, everyone can play together. There are so many different games to play and rooms to hang out at. Find out who's the best at dodgeball, or join an epic game of laser tag and carry your team to victory. You can also just hang out with people in the park, go up against others in an intense race, make your way through adventurous roleplay maps, and even enjoy playing in Minecraft themed rooms. If you're feeling creative, you can build your own room to share with the world. There's also plenty of ways to customize your avatar to be the coolest looking one in the room. So download this free game today with the link in the description, and you might even see me in your adventures. Rec Room then ran at the giant illager, defeating it with a single swing and revealing 2 spectators before running away to probably play one of its games. I slowly approached the unique looking skeleton and a smaller version of the giant with my sword in hand. To my surprise, they applauded my bravery as the only wither skeleton here willing to fight. Then they started walking off and told me to follow. Curiosity got the best of me, and we began traversing through the nether. The regal undead figure introduced himself as the king of the undead, although he did not have a name. His illager companion is what's known as an illusioner, so the giant was just an illusion used as a test. We eventually arrived at a portal where the Nameless One invited me to serve him in the overworld, while being able to return to the nether whenever I pleased. I jumped at the opportunity for great power and wealth, teleporting to the overworld for the very first time. The portal led to a small dimly lit room that seemed to be used for dark magic, but the staircase led to a huge dining hall filled with different creatures of the undead, as well as several chests and a blacksmithing area. The Nameless One told me to take some time to get used to my new surroundings and improve my gear before he'd give me my first mission. There were so many cool mobs under his command, but one stood out from the rest, a giant armored bug that introduced himself as a bee knight. It seemed a bit random, so I left to go outside. I climbed these weird mushrooms to get a better look at the Nameless One's epic fortress. The overworld was a lot colder and darker than I expected, but it was amazing to see an open sky with all its lights for the first time. Then I began collecting what I was told to be wood from nearby jungle trees, but the skeleton that told me quickly went back to the temple. I climbed a tree to see what he was running from and saw a huge fire begin to engulf the entire horizon. I quickly ran back to the temple, killing some animals on the way for food, and when I returned to the temple, I saw all the undead were hiding inside. So I began walking up the temple to ask the Nameless One what was going on, and that's when I turned around to see the fire had begun flying in the sky. Then the king explained to me how day and night works in the overworld, and how the sun is harmful to most undead, unless they wear helmets, but that doesn't really help for that long. Then he told me about an evil necromancer with an army from the ocean that wanted to rule over the undead, before sending me to go mine some iron to make armor. I spent most of the day mining and dreaming of the ocean. It sounded so nice compared to the lava lakes I'm used to in the nether. By that night, I had full iron armor and some iron gear, along with a little bit of cooked food. As I traveled back to the temple, I saw a zombie getting beat up by some undead creatures coming from the water. I rushed in to help, and they were more than happy to turn their attention toward me. I used my wither ability to deal some extra damage while trying to run around because they were pretty slow, but if they caught you, they could deal some damage. My health got really low, so I ran from the last guy. The jungle was really hard to traverse with someone chasing you. I stopped for a moment to eat and then ran back at him, defeating him. Now a bit on edge, I worked my way back to the temple and noticed 3 tribal skeletons watching me from a distance. I spent days 3 and 4 establishing a little base for myself. I traveled back to my nether fortress and traded some overworld things to my brethren to get some nether brick for building. Then I went back to the Nameless One's portal and constructed a small base around it. It was the perfect start to help me feel at home, while also protecting the portal. It was a good place to store my things, rest, and train between adventures. The next day, I returned to the temple, and the Nameless One tasked me with tracking down a being known as the Stray Prince. My new king did not want to only protect his rule from the drowned threat, but also expand his rule to every part of the world and every dimension. With a small base now in the nether, his next goal was to expand north. While traveling, I took the opportunity to collect plenty of food, which began to grow more sparse as I traveled into the icy tundra. That night, a snowstorm ensued, and I thought it best to set up camp and wait out the storm, giving me the perfect opportunity to cook up all the meat I had gathered. I arrived on the morning of day 6, thinking of the nether as the icy cold chilled my bones to the core. I climbed up a hill, crossed a rickety bridge, and entered a daunting palace. Inside, it felt even colder. The dark room was lit up by blue flames, and Stray wandered the halls. I approached the prince upon his throne and told him of the drowned threat. He agreed to meet with and hear out the Nameless One. Next, he grabbed some things from his room, and we quickly departed for the jungle. It was late when we arrived to the temple, and the prince used ice magic to make a place for him to sit and be more comfortable. After some convincing, the Stray prince decided to join our cause, giving us a strong foothold in the northern region, on one condition. The following day, we traveled back north to look for his pet, a polar bear who he wanted an opinion from before joining forces. We found it swimming in a partially frozen lake, chasing fish and biting at a relatively large squid. The Stray prince approached him first and called him over. He jumped out of the lake and walked up to me with confidence as he began to talk.
So you're the guy that stole away my owner in the night?
Not exactly.
No need to be scared, I don't bite.
I just watched you eat a squid.
Okay, I don't bite most of the time. And you don't look like you have any meat on your bones anyways.
That's true. Would you like to accompany us to the king of the Undead's jungle temple?
Yeah, sure. Wherever the Stray prince goes, I'll follow. I've also heard jungle rivers are packed with fish.
I don't know much about that. The only thing wither skeletons fish for is striders.
You haven't been around here long, have you?
Only a few days.
No worries, big fella. I'll take you fishing sometime. We gonna head off then?
We went back to the temple, and now they both had a little place of their own, so I went back to my base for the last part of the night. On day 8, I went through the portal to go back to the overworld to find a strangely dressed zombie. He said he needed my help down by the river before quickly scurrying off. I followed him there to find some drowned hanging around his dock. Without thinking, I jumped in the water to take them on, and while fighting them, I started taking damage without them hitting me. I needed air. I finished the fight and swam back to the land. I asked, how could I have a chance against the drowned in the water? And that's when the undead stranger introduced himself as the jungle's shipmaster. To combat the undead, our king instructed him to build a small ship for me. I thanked him and raced to get in. He showed me some basics about sailing and said he will be working on new designs to periodically upgrade my ship. Then he gave me the helm. It felt so natural and freeing being able to sail down the river. I let down the sail and the wind helped me pick up speed. I eventually dropped off the shipmaster and he told me this ship could probably hold 2 more crewmates, but the next ship would be able to hold 4. Then he gave me a beginner's captain's uniform along with an iron cutlass. I spent the remainder of the day practicing sailing around the jungle while enjoying the fresh air, as I was used to the warm stuffiness of the nether. For days 9 through 11, I was given command over a squad of vanguard skeletons, and we were tasked to protect a pillager caravan as they tried to deliver fresh supplies to their outposts. We arrived to a huge fortified mansion where we were greeted by that illusioner from before. He sent us on our way with a group of pillagers, and we quickly ran into trouble. Small groups of villagers infested the nearby lands, remnants of a villager rebellion or something. One night, a group of villagers tried to ambush us by a river as we neared the outpost. The battle took a turn for the worse when everyone was ambushed by several drowned from the river. The villagers were soon overrun, and then we just had to focus on the drowned. When we finally arrived at this outpost, the Pillager General, who was checking on all the outposts, came out to greet us.
Thank you so much for your assistance, Skeleton. The illusioner mentioned you showing promise.
No problem, we are allies after all. I was actually sent to help you with the villagers to hopefully free up some of your forces to assist us against the growing drowned threat.
We'll be sure to offer what assistance we can in return, but I can't spare many troops right now. Keeping the peace and spread our forces thin.
Well, whatever help we can get will be greatly appreciated.
We live in uncertain times, but I do believe we'll come out on top.
I believe so too. Do you know anything that could help us in the fight against the drowned?
Not too much. I do know the Drowned Necromancer was accidentally awoken by 2 of our Pillager captains when they took that summoner's block from an ocean monument. I'd start there. Maybe that has a clue.
Summoner's block? Alright, well, thank you. We should start heading back now. I gathered my troops and we all started heading back toward the jungle. Day 12, we took a shortcut through a foggy swamp to get home, and I took the opportunity to hunt down some more food as I was beginning to run low. We soon stumbled upon an abandoned witch hut. It was a bit creepy, but I saw a chest I wanted to loot, so I climbed up and found a haunted bow with arrows inside. To be honest, this whole swamp felt a little haunted. We quickly left after that and arrived home late at night to find some more stray had begun to show up to the temple. Just in time too, because the Nameless One said the drowned forces were getting more aggressive and we needed to send a response force soon. Early in the morning on day 13, I already had a zombie and skeleton with iron helmets in my boat and ready to set sail. We headed off and soon made it to the open ocean. It was a beautiful sight, at least until we stumbled upon a huge swarm of drowned. We quickly sailed away and met up with some of the other undead troops that were sent out here earlier. They helped us fight the drowned getting closer to shore, but they seemed to just keep coming, so I sent my skeleton crewmate to go get Pillager reinforcements. The drowned didn't want to come out of the water until until the sun began to set. That's when they rushed the beach and started defeating our armored troops. After a vanguard gave me new orders, I pushed toward the ocean. I was told to get back on my ship and sail further down the beach to get some help from another undead battalion. After sailing for a while, I couldn't find any more troops, so I turned back around and found the battlefield empty. The sun was coming out and the Drowned had returned to the ocean. Most of my fellow soldiers were defeated, along with my zombie crewmate. We took the time we had to add some more fortifications to the beach. While we waited for the Pillager reinforcements to arrive, a vanguard forced me to wear iron armor for the upcoming battle for better protection. And as the sun started getting low in the sky, an even bigger army of Drowned approached. The remainder of our forces were quickly overwhelmed, so I ran for my life. I went into a small ravine by the beach that led to a dead end. I knew the Drowned were right behind me, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Then a familiar face dropped down next to me. My crewmate returned and said reinforcements were right behind him. I thought we were saved, until I asked how many, and he said 5. But it wasn't just any 5. With our backs against the wall and the Drowned swarm closing in, I thought we were goners, until our reinforcements arrived. 5 decked out tall Pillagers ready for battle. They wasted no time shooting down their targets and running headfirst against the Drowned. Then the last guy ran in, summoning 2 illusions of himself so the 3 of them could take down the last of the Drowned swarm. A swift and victorious battle. That was awesome.
I told you I couldn't spare a lot of troops, but I was able to bring the best of the best.
It is much appreciated. I really thought we were goners.
You were very helpful the other day. I'm just glad we could return the favor. We'll secure the beach. You go ahead and regroup with your forces.
Thank you all.
Alright men, let's head out. The fight's not over yet.
The Pillagers marched toward the ocean, while my skeleton friend and I snuck onto my ship and sailed on home. On day 15, the Nameless One wanted me to take a curious-looking cube from the Archevoker, ruler of the Pillagers, to be examined by a queen bee friend of his. He said once fixed, it could prove useful in the war, so off I went. He said to also check on how his bee allies' experiment was going while I was there. I followed his instructions to a giant beehive and saw more of those bee knights, as well as bee creatures I could have sworn were undead. I found the queen bee by a pool of honey, playing with some creepy little bees.
Hello there, tall fella, aren't you?
Hi. Sorry, what's going on with some of your bees?
That's my latest experiment. I've successfully raised my fallen bees from beyond the grave.
Why would you want that?
Calamity plagues these lands with everyone grasping for power. To protect my subjects, I've bolstered our numbers with what I call zombies. Clever, I know.
I see. Well, the Nameless One needs your help. He needs you to examine this artifact and see if you can get it working in proper order.
Ooh, what a beautiful design. At first glance, this looks like a summoner's block. It's used for the art of necromancy, but needs a sample of each mob to be able to spawn it. And it's definitely broken.
I think the Archevoker...
The Archevoker is not known for his patience. It's odd he would seek out such a device. There, it should work now, but its memory's been wiped. You'll need to attune it to each creature you wish to summon. And don't try to summon too many things at once.
Thank you. I'll make sure to let the Nameless One know. And your experiment is going well?
My zombies still need some work, and probably more samples. I'll be sure to send for more, then we'll be able to lend a hand in the fight. Tell him I said hello, and until next time.
I'll be sure to. With the Summoner's block now fixed, I promptly left the Bee Kingdom and began the trek home. As I journeyed through the night, I thought back to what the General said about this block, and how taking it awoken the Drowned Necromancer. I returned to my king with the block in hand and told him everything. He excitedly said to test it on his subjects inside the temple, and see if the stray prince would be willing to be tested on too. I held it up to a zombie, and nothing happened. So with a scientific attitude, I smacked the zombie with the block and felt a surge of energy rush into it. Then I was able to summon a zombie, so I ran around the temple smacking all the other mobs, even the prince, who wasn't too mad. Then the polar bear made me smack him, but nothing happened. I guess it only works for undead creatures. The Nameless One was pleased, and told me to hold on to it for now, so I could collect more samples for him. Day 16, the shipmaster said he had a design ready for me, but he would need a good amount of jungle wood to construct it. So I started chopping down some trees away from the temple, and saw a Drowned patrol near my boat. They probably were looking for the temple, so I took out my bow, took them by surprise, and shot at them from the tree line. Then I dove into the water with cutlass in hand, slicing up the last of them. After that, I decided to sail on home, gave the wood I collected to the shipmaster, and headed back to the temple. After reporting the Drowned incident, the Undead King thought it best I take my ship and crew to push back the Drowned forces from the rivers in the jungle. So I recruited a new zombie, giving him and my skeleton friend blue bandanas to protect them from the sun. Then we started making our way out of the jungle and attacked small patrols that we came across. We did this for 2 days, defeating the Drowned underlings fairly easily, but we were not ready for the larger group that we ran into on day 18. We got out of our ship and thought fighting them on land would give us the advantage, but the Drowned overtook both my crewmates while battling. This gave me the resolve to dispatch the last of our opponents, and after the fight, I quickly ate some food to heal up, but was surprised by a trident impaling me in the back. I spun around and saw a Drowned in turtle armor hurling his trident at me again, trying my best to dodge. I was not prepared for this fight. I took out my bow and attempted to return fire, but his trident was more powerful, so I had to rush at him with my sword. He was still able to jab me with his trident and my health got low. With some quick thinking, I quickly parried the trident out of his hand and defeated him. Now I had my own enchanted trident, but I would need a new crew. Day 19, I returned to the shipmaster's dock to check on his progress, very excited to see a beautiful ship waiting for me. I tried to take it for a spin before the shipmaster had a chance to say anything, and it was very slow and hard to work everything by myself. The shipmaster caught up to me and said I would need some crewmates to help me sail. I took some time to think about who to get to join my crew while I went to go collect some food. Then I thought a full ship of wither skeletons would be a daunting sight to any enemy, so I headed back to my nether base and made a new room for 4 future crewmates to have a place to stay. I spent days 20 and 21 traveling through the nether to recruit some wither skeletons. My first stop was my home fortress. I found a friend of mine I grew up with and told him of all the adventures and treasure we could have. It didn't take too much convincing to get him to come along. I gave him a white bandana and made him quartermaster of my ship. Then we decided to look for another fortress to get more recruits because everyone else here was not brave enough to face that giant illager from before. We soon found another fortress and got 3 more wither skeletons that wanted to see the overworld for themselves. I gave them all blue bandanas and we all started traveling back to my base. On the way there, I noticed the wither skeleton wearing a red bandana watching us from a distance. Perhaps he could be another crewmate. On day 22, I showed my new crew where they would be staying and remembered I should update the summoner's block with the essence of a wither skeleton. My quartermaster volunteered and I smacked him with the block, giving it a new energy. I brought the block back to the Nameless One and he tried to use it to no avail. He said it was still cooling down from when I summoned the zombie and he'll need to do more research on the block for now. He was hoping to be able to harness its power to summon all types of undead on his own, after we unlock them of course. Then the Nameless One led me outside to the shipmaster's dock where an illager chef was waiting our arrival. He had heard we were growing our navy and needed a ride. To keep good relations with the illagers, I was tasked to take him wherever he needed to go, and I had to leave 2 crewmates at the temple for this adventure because the illager chef wanted us to pick up a friend on the way. My crew and I were very confused when we pulled into a harbor of a village and a butcher hopped in the ship. Then we set sail for what they described as a mushroom island. This could be a cooler trip than I thought. We arrived at the island late into the night, so we set up a small campsite by the ship and the chefs made us a great meal from the mushrooms on the island. The next morning, I got to see the full island in all of its splendor. It was a beautiful island filled with giant mushrooms and red mushroom cows, as well as one mushroom that seemed to watch us from a distance. The chefs went hard to work on chopping down some of the giant mushrooms with enchanted axes. Then an armored mushroom jumped out with a crossbow and shot it at my crew. Or so I thought. I turned around and saw Drowned in the water. They had followed us here. I pulled out my trident and began hurling it at them as my crew waited for them to get closer to the land. But luckily we were able to take them out before they could. The creature that helped us introduced himself as a mushroom knight and encouraged us to quickly leave his island once the chefs cut down a few mushrooms. I noticed more knights gathering behind him, so I agreed and we sailed out shortly after that encounter. We dropped the butcher back at his home and sailed toward more familiar lands. When we made it back, the illager chef thanked us with some soup, saying that he was glad the rumors of the island were true. We went on that whole expedition based on a rumor. On day 24, I got all my crew together and we went to explore and plunder as I promised. We found a villager town by the shore with a large ship donning black sails beside it. As we got closer, I used the spyglass a crewmate made for me, waiting for my return from Mushroom Island, and I saw drowned pirates were attacking the village. We pulled ashore and charged in with our swords out. My crew was excited to have their first real battle as we swept through the village, defeating pirate after pirate, with adrenaline rushing through our bones. When the battle was over, the villager's mayor tried to thank us, but we made him give up all of their food. Then we boarded the vessel, defeated their captain, and took what loot we could find in the drowned ship, finding some precious metals and gems. Then we set the ship ablaze, watching it burn as we sailed on home, feeling like true pirates now. The next morning, a skeleton vanguard found us in the nether base with another mission for us. There was a large figure spotted roaming the nearby lands. We were tasked with scouting out the area in case it was something the drowned sent to attack us, and we sailed through the rivers of the jungle for the next 2 days with not much luck. Day 27, we decided to expand our search past the jungle. That's when we ran into 2 of the illagers that saved me from a swarm of drowned. They had also been tasked with hunting down the large figure, worried that it was another golem on the loose. They gave us coordinates to a tower to investigate and continued on their way. When we arrived at the coordinates the next day, we found an enormous redstone tower that seemed like it could house golems, but when we went inside, it looked abandoned. However, as we were heading back to the ship, I noticed a golem walking through the forest. I told my crew to go guard the ship as I tailed the golem. The strange creature led me to a cave and I tried to sneak up behind him, but I was caught by some other golems.
And who do we have here?
An enemy?
No, I don't think so. Or at least, I don't sense any ill intentions.
Hello there.
Answer the question, tall guy. Who exactly are you? You know, I bet I could take this guy.
I'm just a servant of the Nameless One. I was sent out here to investigate a stray golem sighting.
Oh, please excuse him. We know of your ruler.
Are you friend or foe?
Indifferent would be the correct response.
I'm not feeling too good. Oh, yeah?
Excuse us for a moment.
I stood there and watched them place down some blue crystals that emitted some sort of energy. It seemed to have a restorative effect on the copper golem.
That's much better. That rust was gonna be the end of me. We golems are tired of doing the bidding for other creatures.
All we seek is refuge from your wars.
Your little friend there seemed ready to fight.
He's young and adventurous, itching to prove himself. Are you going to report what you saw here?
Should I?
Well, you could tell them that you didn't find anything.
More specifically, not anything that looked like us, especially to the Pillager folk.
We just want a place to call home. Yeah, somewhere where we can take care of our own and thrive.
I won't say anything if you promise not to cause any trouble, and it's best you probably relocate somewhere else.
Thank you, traveler. We will be on our way then.
Sorry I almost took you down. Your face kind of looks like a bun, and I love smashing buns. It's really fun. You should try smashing the like button and the subscribe button.
What did I say about breaking that wall?
Sorry, I'll put it back. Try it out.
Who was he talking to?
We never know.
Alright, well I'll be off then. I wish you all the best. I left the golems behind in the mine and rejoined my Wither crew. I told them the golem I saw would no longer be a threat, and we began sailing back toward the jungle temple. On the way back, we ran into a few more of those drowned ships, and they had set up a blockade. We kept our distance, waiting until nightfall because we were heavily outnumbered. We were lucky that night was a foggy one. We slowly sailed up to the blockade, trying not to make any noise or raise any alarm. The ships were infested with drowned pirates. We held our breath as we slowly made it past, and once we were clear, we dropped the sail and took off toward home. Day 30, we returned to the Nameless One, and I told him the golem was no longer a threat, but we did have to worry about the drowned pirates and their ships. He said we would continue to grow our fleet and began talking about taking over their ships when we were interrupted by the polar bear. Apparently, the stray prince should have reported back by now. I ran to my ship and began sailing through the labyrinth of jungle rivers. The stray prince had taken a small boat out with another stray to get used to sailing, but has yet to return, so it was our job to find him. We found the stray prince the next day, and he had gotten himself a new outfit and wanted to become a pirate too. Unfortunately, his helper was defeated by a wandering hero, which he said is a villager in blue robes. I got one of my crewmates to help the stray prince sail back to the temple, and the rest of us went to go investigate what was going on. Through the brush, we saw some villagers were looting a small jungle temple. I figured we could take them on, so my crew and I jumped out and ambushed them. They actually put up a good fight, just not good enough though. When I approached the entrance, the wandering hero emerged, hit me out of the way, and escaped into the jungle. It didn't really seem worth chasing him, so I went inside. The traps were disabled, and the loot was gone. Whatever the villagers risked their lives for seemed pretty important, but the prince was safe, so we went on our way. The sun began to rise on day 32 as we neared the temple, and one of my crewmates spotted a small fort on the shore. So we stopped to see what it was, and it seemed abandoned, but there were some books left on the table, so I scooped them up and left. Upon arrival home, I gave the Nameless One the books, and he was very excited. We went down into his necromancy lab, and he told me he didn't want to return to where those books were after the fallout between him and his predecessor. These were his books that the Nameless One was never allowed to read. He said he would be down here for a while, and I should go plunder some villages to get more supplies for our army. There were more undead stationed at the beach in need of supplies. For the rest of day 32 through day 35, my crew and I sailed up and down the coast looking for villages to loot. The first village we found put up a fight. In large numbers, the villagers can actually be pretty scary, and their crossbows can do a good amount of damage. My health got low, so I ran for cover, but my crewmates helped me fight them back. Then we gathered up all their food and went on our way. The other villages didn't want to put up a fight, making our job easier and led us to find some good loot too. On the way back, we ran into another drowned ship, but they weren't facing us, so we snuck aboard and found a bunch of TNT. My quartermaster had a flint and steel, so he lit some of it, and we quickly went away from the ship to watch the fireworks. We searched the remains of the ship, and the captain had a cool uniform on. The keyword here is had. It's mine now. It actually provided better protection than my old uniform, just not against TNT, I guess. Near the end of day 36, we delivered the supplies our troops needed on the beach, and we also helped them fight off some more drowned that came ashore, before going back to our nether base to dry off and unload our loot. On day 37, while we were hanging out in our base and sorting all of our loot, the wither skeleton in the red bandana I spotted a while ago came through the portal. Hello there. Are you here to join my crew?
Not exactly. I just wanted to see who I'm up against.
Excuse me?
You didn't think you were the only wither skeleton the Nameless One recruited, did you? I also passed the test.
He never mentioned you.
I was just recruited. Our king thought it best you have some healthy competition.
So you'll be getting your own ship and crew?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. You can start off with my old boat if you need one. And I guess welcome to the Undead fleet.
Your confidence will betray you. I'll be in charge around here soon enough.
And with that, he walked off confidently back through the portal, and I felt as though I may regret helping him. For the next 2 days, my crew and I were sent to a birch forest to collect wood to build another ship. This one would be for the Stray Prince, while he journeyed home to gather a crew. We dropped the wood off at the shipmaster's place, and he said the ship would be ready soon, so we began sailing for colder waters to tell the prince. On day 40, as we neared the Stray Prince's castle, we saw drowned pirates fighting some frozen-looking pirates, and in the thick of battle was the Stray Prince. We docked close to the battle and charged in, overwhelming the enemy. Our forces were becoming quite strong, and after the battle, the Stray Prince said he was eager to command his own vessel, but for now, they would take these 2 conquered ships. Before we headed back, we were asked to gather more snow to construct a snowy place in the jungle for the Stray Pirates. After spending so much time in the cold, my crewmates were all ready to go soak in some nice warm lava. That seemed a bit dangerous, so instead, we started heading toward our boats to go back to the warm jungle. The morning of day 43, we arrived back to the shipmaster's dock to see a brand new ship awaiting the prince. The Stray crew was excited to test out their new vessel, but my crew had more pressing matters. A vanguard approached us saying that a detachment of zombies went missing on the way to the Bee Kingdom. Something led them astray far toward the beach, and when we arrived, I noticed a small crab with a chest on its back. My crew and I chased it around until it led us to what I think ate the zombies. A giant crab carrying treasure, and it did not take kindly to us chasing its baby. The crab chased us around, snapping at our feet. We ran back to our ship and jumped in. Luckily, it didn't want to lose its treasure in the water, so it watched us from the beach as we fired upon it with our arrows and trident until it toppled over, dropping plenty of gold. The following day, we were reporting what killed the zombies to the Nameless One when a pillager approached running up the temple stairs. He frantically told us the drowned were attacking, so my crew and I followed him. We sailed to a destroyed pillager outpost, and the pillager was very sad, but determined to get revenge. So we sailed further down the shore until we found the pirates responsible. He led my crew to fight them off, but I figured they might try to run, so I swam under their ship and made a few holes. The drowned did try to flee, and soon their ship sank, making it easy target practice for the pillager and I. Since it was raining hard on day 48, my king thought it would be a good idea to deliver the replacement zombies the queen bee needed, so they hiked a more direct path under my crew's protection this time. We luckily arrived just as the sun was peeking over the horizon on day 49. The queen bee was waiting expectantly, guiding us quickly to a special sun-proof chamber she had designed and constructed. The zombies were happy to shamble about inside as we spoke.
That'll keep them fresh.
Fresh? For your experimentation?
Exactly. It's much easier to get undead bees in working order when you have zombies to experiment on.
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
No need for alarm. These zombies will not be harmed, and when the time arises, I'm sure you will appreciate the reinforcements.
Well then, I look forward to seeing how they turn out.
Here, a small reward for your troubles. Farewell.
Thank you. Farewell. We headed back after that, and my crew seemed so amazed by the Queen Bee's palace. Day 50, I added an extra room just for treasure to my nether base, and we filled it with all the treasure we had gathered so far. Then we spent the rest of that day and the next day replenishing our food supply. On day 52, one of the undead scouts returned with news that a group of armored drowned were on land and were headed toward the temple. I led my crew, along with some vanguards and armored skeletons, to meet them in the jungle. Luckily, these big drowned had only found the temple the villagers already looted, but these were unlike any drowned we had fought before. They hit hard and began defeating some of our troops. Their leader backed me away from the others, so I quickly circled around a tree and defeated him. That was a close one. Day 53, the polar bear approached me and asked if I could take him to fish up north, where he had heard there were some big fish to catch. It was a welcome break from all the fighting. Over the next 2 days, we traveled to a freezing ocean and fished atop an iceberg.
Okay, you gotta hold the line steady if you want to catch something.
Well, it's pretty cold up here.
Is this place really that much colder than the Nether?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, I've never been. It's safer than the Nether though, right?
I think so, although my opinion of that is changing day by day. I sure wish we were at a lava beach right now.
The cold is just a state of mind, really. It's how I got used to it. Well, that and plenty of fur.
That would definitely help.
You enjoying your time in these lands?
Yeah, it's different, but exciting.
Just keep an eye on the illagers.
How do you mean?
One day you're just out fishing, the next day try and turn you into a barbecue.
Barbecue? Before he could explain, drowned came out of the water. It seemed nowhere were safe from the drowned, and they had a grudge against me specifically. We were surrounded and didn't know what to do. Suddenly, a weird arrow flew by and hit one of the drowned. Then the stray crew ran in, defeating the other drowned. It was a happy but short reunion. We were needed back home. The following day, the Undead King had his 3 best ships out patrolling the shoreline. My ship, the Stray Prince's, and my supposed rival that now had a ship the size of mine filled with a Wither skeleton crew and a pretty cool captain's hat. While patrolling, I saw the other 2 ships had docked. As I got closer, a giant fish came out of the water to attack us. I had to outmaneuver the fish and hurl my trident into the water as it shot a beam at us. It eventually began to retreat into the depths of the the ocean, so I stood up on my ship and hurled my trident at it one last time. Only a wet sponge and some experience returned to the surface. Days 56 to 58, I spent gathering more wood for the next upgrade of my ship. My Wither crew helped gather some wood and also watched my back. The edge of the jungle we were collecting the wood from was close to a village, and rightfully so, the villagers deemed us a threat, but they were no match for us. On the way to the shipmaster, we found the stray crew had now set up a place of their own to stay near the temple between adventures. Then, as we dropped off all the wood, the shipmaster said we would need to recruit several more Wither skeletons for the next ship he had in mind. So we traveled back to the Nether and scoured the molten lands for any Wither skeleton with an adventurous spirit. It took a few days, but soon we had a whole swarm of Wither skeleton pirates traveling through the Nether. I'm sure it was a confusing sight for anyone that watched us go by. When we made it back home, I made sure to expand our barracks to house all of us. Day 62, with a new ship filled with my large crew, we set sail to explore to see if we could find any treasure. We were told sunken ships might have treasure maps inside, and with a bit of luck, the first ship we found had one. The map had us sail into the open ocean for quite some time. The following day, we arrived at a beautiful large island, and I told my crew to spread out, search the island for loot, and meet me back by the ship by nightfall. While exploring, I found a small dark boat. I pulled out my sword and looked around carefully. We weren't alone. I cautiously moved in for a closer look and was attacked by a drowned pirate captain. He was quite the opponent, but I bested him. After the battle, I searched for what the captain was here for. I soon found a chest. A moving chest? Upon further inspection, I discovered the chest was actually attached to a pig. I ran around trying to grab it with no avail, so I rummaged around the drowned captain's boat, found a carrot, and lured the little piggy up to me. And inside the chest, I found an awesome enchanted pirate uniform and a powerful golden sword, along with plenty of shiny loot. I returned to my ship, and my crew was very impressed with my new look. We sailed back home satisfied the next day. Day 65, we found the shipmaster eagerly waiting our return. He wanted help to find his old crew to add to our fleet, so I left a crewmate to watch his dock for him, and we went to where he told us to go. Apparently, his old first crewmate tried to stage a mutiny, causing the ship to crash and making them an undead crew. Now we would have to defeat him to win over the rest of the crew. When we arrived, we saw several pirate skeletons looking eager for a fight. The shipmaster went to go talk to the skeleton that towered over the rest. Of course, that guy had to be the first mate. He agreed to a duel and allowed one extra combatant to make things fair. Then the shipmaster passed me some health potions and said he would need my help. Soon we were surrounded by both crews and we were told to attack first. The first mate was quick to retaliate and did so much damage. He could kill either of us with just a few hits. He also used a magic artifact that he found that summons attacks similar to the evokers, as well as disabled my enchantments, which was very terrifying. I had to use health potions while dodging these relentless attacks. We took turns running into attack, knocking gold out of his backpack. We got a good rhythm of attacks going, and the first mate couldn't keep up. Eventually he fell over and was weak enough for the shipmaster to land the final blow, but he didn't. The shipmaster had earned the respect he needed and said we would need every person we could get to help against the drowned threat. He told me he would build a new ship for his crew and take the defeated first mate with me to serve the Nameless One. Day 67, I introduced our latest recruit to the king and then left to go find a place to build. The shipmaster had also given me instructions to build a dockhouse near the ocean for his crew to both stay in and continue building ships. I spent this day looking for the perfect place to build and leveling out the area to make the building process easier. Then my crew and I spent the next few days gathering plenty of resources for the building of the dockhouse and for the shipmaster to build more ships. Day 71, we started heading back to the beach to build when we came across two drowned ships that were both patrolling the area and stopped to meet up. Since they were facing both ways, we couldn't avoid detection, so we sailed up to the one closer to the shore and boarded it. Chaos ensued in this heated battle as the two pirate forces clashed and we tried to take over the ship. Surprisingly, the other ship didn't help, so we were actually able to capture the ship. I thought it might be a good idea to crash the ship we took over into the other one, but when I made it to the helm, I saw why the other ship didn't help. Another Wither crew dressed in all red and their captain crossing over to me.
And so we meet again.
Hey, how come I haven't seen you around the temple?
I've been expanding our reach, getting plenty of loot and building my own crew.
I can see that. Thanks for coming to our aid.
Don't see it as help, see it as motivation to do better.
Well, either way, thanks.
We are off. Treasure won't find itself.
Before I could mention taking over these ships, his crew had set the ship ablaze and my crew excitedly followed suit. We made it back the following day and spent days 72 to 75 constructing this awesome dockhouse out of jungle wood. Now the shipmaster and his crew had a great place to stay and work on expanding our fleet. Just in time too. The shipmaster returned with his crew while we were finishing up building. The Nameless One joined us as well to see how the build turned out. Then he thanked me with his old necromancer staff that he improved with some enchantments. With it, I could summon a few armored zombies to assist me in battle, as well as shoot magic with it, but I was to use it sparingly until I better learned the art of necromancy. On day 76, my crew was eager to get back in the ocean. As we patrolled the shoreline, we attacked any drowned parties we came across. We happened to find the Pillager group that saved me near the start of my adventures. They were fighting some drowned pirates over a cage, finishing the last of them as we approached. The cage held held a messenger parrot they used to send off a message to a group of rebellious Illager pirates. I'm sure that would be quite the sight. Then the general told me they saw the Drowned flagship pass through here a couple days ago and thought to hire some pirates of their own to help out. And then he ran off with his party into the distance. If we could find and conquer the flagship, we might be able to disrupt the Drowned's plans and finally defeat them. So we spent the next several days trying to track it down. The only thing we had to go on though was the direction it went and that we would know it when we see it. Luckily, we eventually found the ship and it definitely had to be the flagship. It was enormous. If we were going to take it over, we needed the element of surprise. So we quickly sailed up to the ship. Then I told my crew to climb up the side and take the higher levels. My quartermaster and I snuck into the bottom level of the ship and began fighting pirates. Dark magic must be keeping this thing afloat. It seemed like it arose from the bottom of the ocean after being sunken long ago. Once we took over the bottom floor, we started moving up to the next level. We found our crewmates battling the drowned pirates there, and we continued to work our way up, amassing my crew as we worked our way to the deck. When we made it topside, I had my crew fight the other pirates, and I went to go find the Drowned Necromancer. I was met with two more of those specially armored guys in fish armor. I thought they must have been royal guards for the Necromancer. However, the captain of the ship was the Drowned Necromancer's general, and he used a powerful trident. I tried my best to dodge and counterattack, but he could easily defeat me. That's when I remembered my new weapon, and I summoned 3 armored zombies to fight for me. They were able to wear him down, but he still managed to overcome them. I rushed into attack, and he was definitely injured, so I landed the final blow, leaving nothing but an enchanted trident. When I looked over the deck, all I saw was my crew. That gave me an idea. We brought my ship aboard and sailed back to the dockhouse in the flagship, which had a lot of loot and ton of food aboard. But I did notice a few crewmates of mine had fallen in battle. Over the next 2 days, I took what was left of my crew to aid the Illager forces in raiding a village that housed a good portion of their rebellion forces. I decided to summon some help since we were a bit outnumbered. Battles between Illagers and villagers always seemed to be very fierce. The zombies, along with 2 more of my crewmates, fell in battle, but we still managed to emerge as victors. The general said this was a major victory and that the Illagers will show up when we need them most. We docked at the shipmaster's new place on the night of day 83 with a brand new warship awaiting us. The pirates were so excited to see our reactions, but we were still mourning our fallen brethren. We thanked them and went on our way back to the temple. Over the next few days, we retreated back into the nether. My crew and I took some time to rest and grieve those who fell in battle. Then I decided to head out on my own to recruit some more wither skeletons. My ship needed a full crew for whatever lay ahead of us. The excitement of my new recruits was a refreshing sight after everything we endured so far. I knew I had to be strong for my crew as we returned to the base. I added a couple more bunks and made sure everyone was well equipped for battle. On day 87, my rival wither skeleton came frantically barreling into my base.
Beast, it was so big, I didn't even have the chance to. Oh, my crew, my ship.
Whoa, calm down. Take a breath. Tell me what happened.
There's a big beast in the water that serves the Drowned Necromancer. It sank my ship and devoured my crew. I swam here as fast as I...
Where was it?
Not too far off. I can show you, but I am not getting back in the water with that thing loose.
Before we could go, the Nameless One stopped us. He said he got the Queen Bee to design some armor using conduit technology to help us combat the Drowned more effectively in the water. It was just a prototype, but it should prove useful. So I donned the armor, pulled out my trident, and he also gave me some health potions before we left. We went back to where the giant beast was last seen, and I dropped my rival off at the beach. Then we sailed into deeper waters until we found it. I told my quartermaster to take my crew and get out of here before jumping into the water. The armor allowed me to breathe underwater and swim around faster like a conduit allows. With trident in hand, I charged in, hurling my trident at the giant fish in front of me, and it began swimming around. It shot very powerful blasts, so I had to be quick to dodge. The beast also dropped things into the water, and when I accidentally swam into one, it pricked me. My trident seemed to do a good bit of damage, and I was feeling pretty hopeful, not having to heal up too much, and finally the beast grew weak, and I tried to land my final strike. That's when things went south. The beast spun around and looked brand new, except now his eye was glowing with dark magic, and it also summoned a bunch of smaller fish to its aid. The beast's scale seemed to grow denser now, and my trident wasn't as effective. That, with dodging all the other fish, made things very difficult, but I decided to focus my attacks on the beast, trying my best to dodge and heal up when I could, and when I finally got his health low again, I swam toward it with my blade and defeated it. However, the other fish remained, so I had to try my best to hit these smaller targets with my trident. Then I swam up to retrieve what the beast had dropped, among which was some glow squid armor and the eye of the beast that shot a powerful beam. Both would come in handy later. As I swam to the shore, my armor seemed to break, and I could no longer breathe underwater. Luckily, I made it back to the temple fine, but I had to return the armor to be fixed. The next day, the shipmaster was making some repairs on my ship when that messenger parrot delivered some news from the Illager pirates. They had come across a huge drowned invasion that was heading straight for us, and we only had a few days left to prepare. The Nameless One sent me to go call upon the Queen Bee and the Archievoker for help. The queen said her experiment was finished and she was ready to answer our call for help. Then the Archievoker thanked me for what I did to help them and said that they would answer the call too. We took day 91 to gather our troops to the beach, and as the sun began to set, the drowned forces arrived. Fortunately, the Queen Bee arrived with a mix of bee knights and zombies under her command. Then the Pillager General arrived with several pillagers and vindicators. We were ready for a fight. The drowned fleet wasted no time in storming the beach. All types of drowned clashed against our strange mix of troops. It was pure chaos. The drowned forces definitely outnumbered us and seemed to just keep coming. I tried my best to help all the groups that fought on our side. The bees had the least battle experience, but they made up for it with brilliant tactics. The drowned were terrified of the undead bee swarm that encompassed them and stung them. The vindicators held back the line as the pillager shot at the drowned, and the Nameless One fiercely led his troops into battle with his powerful magic. But as long as the ships remained, the drowned forces would keep coming out, and we would soon be overwhelmed. However, our luck changed when I heard a powerful roar and saw the polar bear rushing into battle, mowing down drowned after drowned. When he got to me, he said to look toward the ocean. I turned to see all the drowned ships were engulfed in flames, and there were two familiar crews coming ashore. With the drowned circled and their ships destroyed, we were able to defeat the last of them. After the battle, everyone left and went their separate ways. My Wither skeleton crew and I went back to our base, and when I did a head count, I noticed we lost another crewmate in battle. Over the next few days, we were tasked with seeking out the Drowned Necromancer's hideout. But as I was leaving the temple, I noticed my old rival looking down. He wanted to be a pirate again, and since I had an open spot on my ship, I decided to make him my first mate, second in command. To thank me, he gave me some TNT and some different things to light it. Then we set sail and searched the oceans for the drowned hideout. On day 95, we returned to the dockhouse unsuccessful. Strangely enough, the Queen Bee was awaiting our return.
My wither friend!
Hello there, is something wrong?
One of my bee scouts is located where this drowned mage fellow is hiding and commanding the drowned from.
Where?
It would be easier to show you.
That would be great, I'm right behind you.
Fantastic. Follow me.
I followed her behind the dock where two giant bees were waiting with the Nameless One. He said it was safe to ride on, so I reluctantly got on and instantly regretted it. I did feel safer though as we flew over water. We eventually arrived to an island that the Queen said was heavily guarded. She told me the Drowned Necromancer should be inside and I'd have the most chance of survival if I snuck inside to fight him. So I put on the glow squid armor I had and jumped off the bee down into the water. When I got back up to the surface, I saw the Queen Bee had dropped some health potions for me. I then swam up past a drowned ship and up the river. The drowned surprisingly didn't notice me, and once inside, I put back on my pirate uniform and made myself known. The Drowned Necromancer sent a swarm of drowned to capture me, so I quickly pulled out my fisheye and blasted them all down. Then he sent his royal guards to attack, so I pulled out my blade and fought them off. They proved to be more of a challenge. With no more troops nearby, the Drowned Necromancer pulled out a similar staff to mine and began zapping me with his magic. I returned with my trident, but it didn't seem to affect him, so I ran in with my blade and he met me with his trident. He did a lot of damage, but I didn't seem to do anything again. I quickly ran away to hide and heal up. I checked my inventory and grabbed the TNT from my first mate. Then I ran out and set it to blow up. The Drowned Necromancer was smart enough to dodge the explosion, but he did seem to be hurt. Then I realized the pillars were protecting him. He chased me around as I blew up the next two pillars. Then I took out my sword and charged at him. He definitely took damage now. I soon managed to knock him off his feet, and he whispered with his final breath, "I will return," as I finally defeated him. It seemed a little too easy, so just for good measure, I blew up the last pillar that seemed to be missing a block. Then I took the small boat by the entrance and sailed away. The drowned didn't know what to do without their leader and just watched as I left. I really wish I was able to fly home. It took me 2 full days to sail back on this tiny little boat. On day 99, I returned to the dockhouse, but no one was there. As I rode toward the temple, I realized why. The Drowned Necromancer was somehow there and seemed to be using the river water to grow into a giant. The only one brave enough to face him was the Nameless One, and his attacks didn't seem to do much. The Drowned Necromancer just laughed and brushed it off. The Nameless One saw me from afar and yelled, "Destroy it! The summoner's block, destroy it now!" So I quickly pulled it out, placed it down, and set the TNT to blow up. Once it was destroyed, the Drowned Necromancer shrunk down. I found both Necromancers at the shipmaster's old dock. The Nameless One didn't give his opponent the chance to say anything. The battle was finally over. We went back inside the temple where everyone was hiding, and the Queen Bee was there and asked for my staff. She said she could tweak it to work like the summoner's block so I could collect samples from all the undead for the Nameless One. On day 100, the Nameless One held a ceremony on the steps of the temple, honoring those who helped the most against the drowned threat. The Queen Bee gave me back my staff, and I was ready to collect the samples of all the undead. Then the Nameless One officially made me his right-hand man. After the ceremony, my first mate found me looking out at the ocean.
Are you ready to sail off, Captain?
I think so. Let's go. We gathered up the crew and sailed off into the sunset. We had a good start at expanding our king's rule, we built up a powerful navy, and we managed to defeat the Drowned Necromancer. Necromancer. That's the story how I survived 100 days as a wither skeleton in hardcore Minecraft. I want to give a special thanks to X Nestorio, Skies, Moose, Zetro, Swidge, Dr. Duke, and Glitzcore for helping me make this video, to Luke the Notable for starting the 100 days trend, to my patrons for supporting the channel, and to you for watching.